We didn't finish it. We finished the parak. Yeah, we started the new parak. Okay. We to tell you about what kind of inuim one has to do. We said it has to be inui avedas nefesh. That was the top, which is vayan chavar and vayan chavar viveka, which is the kitzer that you have to fast. Now we're up to the fifth line down. Why there's six inuim on Yom Kippur, which are rechitza, achila, shasiya, rechitza, sika, nilas asal non tash mishamita. So it says, why? Can I get shisha inuim amurim b'parsha? Because it says 6 times afflict yourself in the parsha. It says more, whoa. V'aleisnu el chamish, only 5. It says 5 times afflict yourself. Alright, then chumah ve'echad musaf b'rechitza. Then in Parshas Pinchas, which is the Musafim, it says another one, and that corresponds to Rechitza, to washing oneself. Rabbi Zir Bar Chama, Rabbi Yosef, Yechanim B'Sher B'Sher B'Levi said, B'tayin Tzibur.
Interesting that they assume it's Rechitza versus Sicha or something.
Oh yeah, it is interesting that they could pick Rechitza. I don't know why, that specifically.
Rechitza to me is. You'd expect the first one to be.
Yeah, the lightest one is actually Sicha, so I'm not sure why they picked Rechitza. I don't know. You're right. I can give you a svara, just off the top of my head, because in Achrei Mos, in Vayikra, the Kohen is washing himself left and right. So there in Vayikra, it sounds like it's mutter to wash yourself. So only can learn it out from somewhere else, because Kohen Gadol is going to mikveh, is washing his hands and face, maybe his hands and feet, maybe. Azir b'cham b'yetzer chinu b'shem Mishum Levi said, "B'tayin tzibur marchitz panav yodav v'raglo k'dar kol." Tainus, you're allowed to wash your hands and face and your legs normally. B'tishbav marchitz yodav, you can wash your hands and put them on your face, because Tishbav is not so severe. B'yom Kippur, you're not even allowed to do that. Marchitz yodav. You wash your hands and then dry them off, and only then can you pass the towel on your face, which is even less because of the inui aspect. Rabbi Yonah Tari Martuta, Rabbi Yonah used to moisten towels, and put them underneath a barrel so they retain some moisture, and then wipe himself on them with Yom Kippur. Wipe himself, on it. Could be used to Erev Yom Kippur. As for Vatani, I don't understand how can you allow some Tanin Tzibur? Vatani ain't been Tishba Vatani Tzibur. The only difference between Tishba Vatani Tzibur is Ela Isra Malacha. Is only Isra Malacha and Bakum Shinagu. In other words, anywhere else, anything else is exactly the same. Isra Malacha is the difference between Tishba and Tani Tzibur. Everything else is exactly the same. Now, we're not talking about our Tani Tzibur. We're talking about the good old classic Tani Tzibur which they had in times when they lacked rain. So then, it should be also whatever parameters of prohibition apply to Tishba should apply to a regular Tani Tzibur. The Gemara doesn't give an answer. However, if one is going to his Rebbe, even on Yom Kippur, Eitzel to visit his daughter, he passes through a sea, or a nor, or through a river, ain't no chayish, you don't have to be concerned because that's not considered to be washing oneself. That's okay. Tanful ragla, if your legs get dirty, might be might be conducted more of ain't no choshish, that's okay. Holy Rabbi Ba Paskin Kehain Tanya, like this Talmud price which you just learned. Holy Rabbi Yaakov taught that somebody comes from the way Vayuragl of chaos, they're not dirty but they're tired. Chaos means dull. Or Hake is Shinov.
So I think it's like yellowish, no?
That's with a kaf. Keha means darkened, with a kaf hey. Vayuragl of chaos, Shemut Achisamayim, this is like, like water to massage. Time learned, Avel Menu Shalchem Derech, a person who's in Avelus or a person who's in Nidu is not allowed to wear shoes, but they're walking. Dull, blunt. Yeah, and this also, his legs are dulled. Tani Avel Menu Shalchem Derech, if you have a person who's in Avelus or in Cherem and he's walking down the street, Mutar Menilas Hasan, they're allowed to put on a sandal. But when they come to the city, you have to take them off. Chaim Tishbav, so to Tishbav, Chaim Tzibur, the same thing. Uvesicha. Let's talk about now anointing with oils. It's like what she said, B'Shabbos, on Shabbos, any type of anointing with oils is permissible. B'Yom Kippurim, any type of sichel, whether it's for pleasure or not, is also. With this, we draw a distinction. Sicha shishel tainuk, if it's for pleasure, also is forbidden. She'eno shel tainuk muter. If it's not a pleasure, it's muter. V'atani, now this v'ha I think is superfluous. I didn't say anybody take it out explicitly, but I'm taking it out. Tani, we learned, Shava sichel l'shtiyah is the equation to be made between anointing and drinking. In terms of what? In terms of Isser. Now this is about for Truma, you're not allowed to, Zor may not use the oil of Truma. It's forbidden, and Tashumi has to pay. Avalon Lonish, but it doesn't get the same punishment. Okay, so in other words, but if you ingest, the Zor eats Truma oil, he gets Kores, right? If he does Sicha with Truma oil, he doesn't get Kores. It's Misib De Shemayim actually, but he doesn't get Misib De Shemayim. B'Yom Kippurim, that's by Truma. B'Yom Kippurim Isser, by Yom Kippur it's also to anoint with oils. But you don't get punished for having done it. There was no Kores for it. Ask the one about time we learn it doesn't say lo yichalu, do not defile the truma. I would say it means do not anoint it, do not drink it. So we say drinking and anointing are the same. It said take out anointing. Anointing is not an issa d'oraisa. Rabbi Rami said leis kan sach, leis kan shoise. If you're going to take out the prohibition on anointing, you have to take out the prohibition on drinking also. Why? Because the locain, if that's not the case, davar shubah mishnei lavin, something which constitute lavin mitzdarif, or is going to join together. What he means to say, although he doesn't make it clear, is that we know that if a zor say eats half a kazayas of truma and drinks, I think, half a revius of truma, it joins together. So if that can only work if the source for not eating and drinking is the same pasuk. But if not drinking is learned from this pasuk of lo yechalulu, so that's a different pasuk. You can't mix and match the prohibition of drinking with eating, right? So he says you got to take out drinking of this pasuk. You have to say lo yechalulu means it means something else. Just don't generically don't defame, don't derogate truma. Minayin truma churabase. How do we know there's a deraisa at least to the mitzvah say to use truma oil only for a kohen and not for a zor. It says when you bring up Meiser Sheni oil to Shalayim, well, when you bring up Meiser Sheni every 3 years, and you say, I've used my Meiser Sheni properly, so it says you got to say Lo nasati menu l'meis. I didn't give any of my Meiser Sheni to a dead person. Right? So what does it mean? Didn't give it to a dead person. Manakim, what did it say about it? It means that you didn't use your Meiser Sheni money to buy him a coffin or buy him shrouds. Then l'chaylos, that's using Meiser Sheni money for a non-edible purpose. That's also even for the purpose of a live person. Koshke l'meis certainly is also to do for a dead person. So let's say what you can't do specifically for a mace. Which is permissible for a live person and forbidden for a dead person, and you say heavy omer says sicha, that's anointing with oils. So you see, you're not supposed to anoint with oils the Meiser Sheni, not supposed to anoint a dead person with Meiser Sheni oil, right? The live person could. So from this we infer that also by truma, there's a mitzvah say for a kohen to use the oil properly, which is either eating it or being sachet, but a zor who does not, or a zor who uses the truma oil, even in the way of sicha, is transgressing the mitzvah saseh. So the mitzvah says that the kohen should get usage out of it, right? And a live Kohen can, as we just proved. It's only a dead person who can't get usage, but a live person can. So the mitzvah says that a Kohen should use it and not a Zor. Okay? Nilas Sasando. Nilas Sasando is forbidden as well. Time we learn called El Shomer Osim Nilas Sasando. Everybody's forbidden to do Nilas Sasando. Yotza Laderech. If he goes on the way, Noel, he can put on shoes. He get a crack when he gets to the city, he takes it off. That's true. A person has avelus, nuda, or in chayrim. Each time, those who said Yitzibam Palia, where you can wear your socks. And you'll keep them. Each time, those who say Ain't team, you can't. Or if it's the Mandam or Yitzib says you can wear your socks, but in Palia shall beg it. It's socks made out of fabric. That's okay. It's the Mandam or Ain't team on Palia or that's leather socks. So that's not okay. He went in on the eve of Yom Kippur, well actually Yom Kippur at night. Navel Gabe lover Sulisa is wearing, there's various interpretations of what Sulisa is, but I think that the closest shot is probably that of the Orach here, that it's like a shoe with no heel. It has a sole but no heel, so then the sole itself I guess is very thin. So it's not a real shoe, right? It's like two slips of leather in which you stick your foot, kind of like a slipper, something like that. So in any event, so Amar Lacey said, "Maude, what's this? Why are you letting leather?" Amar Lacey said, "Isnisano, I am a sensitive kind of guy." Rashur bar Nachman told Gabi Rabbi Shimon Levi Tanisa. He went to Rabbi Shimon Levi the evening of Tanis. Navel Gabi, so he came out with Rabbi Salisa wearing one of these slippers. Amalei Ma'udain said, "What's this?" Amalei Snisan, he said, "I'm sensitive." Rabbi Samei Chamuna Nafikulei Tanisa. Rabbi Samei, they saw him going out on the eve of Tanis, Rabbi Salisa wearing one of these slippers. Chatam Rabbi Mona, well, one of the students of Rabbi Mona, Horei Paskin Chami Kriva Dinasha, to one of his wife's relatives, Malbishli, so that he could put on one of these shoes on a Tanis as well. On Malay, so he said, Minada, from where did you get this? Minhada, from where did you get this? On Malay, he said, Mishubalevi, I got from Shubalevi. He used to wear Sulisa. On Malay, so he said to him, no, Shubalevi is different. Shubalevi, Eastern Isaba, he was a sensitive kind of guy.
One of those regular Chinese seawords you weren't allowed.
One of the rain tiny seawords, sure. Okay, not ours, but theirs. Tasha Shamita. Now we have to have Tasha Shamita. So it's an interesting thing. Asa Chameis. This is more. It's a fascinating word. Look, come see. Berchitzo Aser. Now to wash. Tasha Shamita lo koshkein. Now to wash. Of course, now to Tasha Shamita because you can't go to the mikveh afterwards. And they hold of Tvilas Ezra. They hold you have to go to the mikveh after Tasha Shamita. So it says, perhaps they have a place where they're not makbid on Tvilas Ezra. According to Shekin Ezra Tefillah L'Bali Keri, before Ezra made Takora, that about Keri has to go to the mikveh. Rabbi Yaakov Rachon, Rabbi Yasser B'Shem, Rabbi Shov Levi said, "Ain't Keri Elami Tashmi Shamita." Keri doesn't come except from Tashmi Shamita. Now, what he means is the halachic status about Keri. Interesting thing here, Tefillas Ezra is only required if you actually had Tashmish, not if you just had an emission. Which is an interesting concept. I don't remember that. I don't remember from Brachas, but what?
That's different.
Yeah. Ravuna says no. Hafilu ra'atzmo ne'ez tol chalom. It seemed you saw himself engaged in some sexual type behavior in a dream, and when he woke up, you had an emission. Have a boy Meima. There's someone to say uvad meisha. It's you're engaged in behavior in your dream with a woman. Because that's akin to Tashmi Shamita. No, even if you dream, you have an emission for some other reason, you're still chayav to go to the mikveh. Okay? What's Ninon? As the Gemara. Well, within we learned Yom Kippur B'Asabachil V'Shir V'Chitz of Sika V'Yasasano Tashmi Shamita. Now to do any of these 6 things. The Tailog we learn concerning this, Bali Keri and Toivlin Kedarkon B'Tzina B'Yom Kippurim. It says Bali Keri can go to the mikveh on Yom Kippur in private. We don't pass that way, but there is such a shita. So Leisa da Pliga Rabbi Shimon Levi doesn't like that argument of Rabbi Shimon Levi. Rabbi Shimon Levi Omar ain't carry Elamitashi Shamita. Rabbi Shimon Levi says no carry except for Tashi Shamita. Then it says here we have a concept about carry. You have to go in the mikvah on Yom Kippur. Obviously you didn't have Tashmish Shamita, so it must be that even regular carry without Tashmish requires you to go to the mikvah. Says the Gemara, Pasalot, so he'll explain no, but Shishimish mitos mipod yom. So about a case where he had Tashmish from before Yom Kippur began, but Shachav lo taval, and he forgot and didn't go to the mikvah, then he can go to the mikvah on Yom Kippur. Says the Gemara, no, can't be, for a tiny thing we learn. Ma'aser Rabbi Yosef Chalaf, this Ma'aser Rabbi Yosef Chalaf, the Shurlo, so Toy B'tzina b'Yom Kippurim. They saw him going to the mikvah in private on Yom Kippur. Isloch lemeimar, but also guf kadosh b'shochech. You say about that holy body that he had tashmish before Yom Kippur, and then he forgot to go to the mikvah, and that's what's going on Yom Kippur. Obviously not. He would never forget. So it must be that a person becomes a Baal Keri on Yom Kippur even without tashmish amita. He also has to go to the mikvah. Okay? Says the Gemara. Period. HaMelech, it said in the Mishnah, a king can wash his face on Yom Kippur. HaMelech, because the pasuk Melech bi yofio techzeno einecha. A king should be seen in his beauty. Hakala, she can wash her hands to her face midnei eva, so her husband does not hate her new husband. After a few months of marriage, it doesn't help. He's going to hate her anyway. But at least the first month, so he should maintain some sort of romance. A woman who gives birth can put on her shoes. Sofa. It seems that Rabbi Lezer only argues by the end, by this case of Nila Sasandal, but Ashkar Tari Akula, that he argues on everything else on Melech Chaya. On Melech and Kala, he says that's not a legitimate reason to allow washing faces. Only a Chaya has the right to. The only thing which is legitimate is a Chaya to wear a sandal, and no other reason is legitimate to break the Nuyim of Yom Kippur, even though it's Rabbana. Halachah Yom Kippurim. Some yitzah on Yom Kippur kikoseves agas the size of a thick, juicy date. Kamoach u'neisa, its size, including its pit. Vashoytzim l'lugam, son who drinks a cheekful, chayev. He's chayev for transgressing Yom Kippur. Kol ochlim mitzdarfin l'koseves, all food joins together to make up the shiur of a koseves. Kol mashkim, and all beverages mitzdarfin l'komali lugmav, they join together to make a mali lugmav. V'och of the shos, if you eat and drink, however, aim mitzdarfin, those two things don't join together. Rabbi Yosef says, Zosa Maris. Our Mishnah mentions that it's the size of a date, a juicy date, with its pit. But dates have air spaces in them. When they're dried, they don't. But when they're fresh, they have air spaces in them between the pit and the flesh. So what's the status of that airspace? So says the Gemara. Rabbi Yosef says there's only mentioned the size of the date with its pit. Zosamer Tzarech tells us that you have to crush the date to take out the airspace. Okay? You have to crush out the airspace. The locain, if not, that was not the fact. Nisnei, it should say in our Mishnah, Kamor, the size of date, Kigalanisa, and its pit, and Mechalala, its space inside as well. Shimon Lazar learned because Koseves the Meris. We're talking about a certain type of date called a Koseves the Meris. Time below Lukmov. Now, there are many different Gersos here. I like Besser Shari Torah Eretz Yisrael. He says that the Gersa should be Mole Lugmo. Now, Lugmav is like this. Right. Mole Lugmo is one. So which one is it? So says the Gemara, Mao Pligid, does he argue that Mishnah? Says Molo Lugmav Shunaz Lugma Achas. No, Molo Lugmav, even our Mishnah means what goes into one cheekful, not two cheekfuls. Previous. Time Shem Beishamai. Mola Lugmav, previous Mola Lugmav of let's skip. No. Tasha Bishai Mola Lugmav previous. So that's the shiur. Mola Lugmav of previous you have to drink. Rabbi Chia Bar Ada boy. What? No, it's half reviews. It's half reviews. It's I'm getting this wrong. I think I was supposed to change the gear, so 1 second. Yeah. Moli Lugma of both. That's what it means to say. Time Moli Lugma of both, that's revius. And one Moli Lugmo is a half revius, right? According to Basil, one Moli Lugmo is enough. We're going to make it Chayav and Yom Kippur. According to Beisham, we need both. So there's a Kula Beisham, according to Basil. Why is not mentioned list in the Masechta Meiduyos? So it says more. It says because sometimes when they logmo sheben avtiach, because of the cheekful ben avtiach, shemachzik yosem revius, which held more than revius. So actually, Beisham is not always a kula; it could be a chumrah. Beisham still is not always a kula; it can be a chumrah, it can be a kula. But it still says mole lugmo, right? So we understand mole lugmo is a chumrah, right? In this weird case, Beisil's machmer. Because Moli Lugmo is less revius, because revius is 2 Moli Lugmo. Says more no, because Beisil can be taught about a case of a person who had a big mouth. So Moli Lugmo is bigger than a regular revius. Okay? Now the important thing today for us still is that there's a basic distinction between food and beverage on Yom Kippur. The food has an absolute shiur, koseves agasa, no matter how large you are. The drink is Moli Lugmo. And that means depends how big or how small you are. Because obviously your Moli Logan will change as well. Now I don't know if you actually pass in that way, but that sort of comes out that's the difference. Okay? If you ate and drank in one period forgetfulness in the chayav chatos achas, you have one chatos because they're similar averos. It's slightly more than an ounce, a little bit larger than the kazais. If you ate and drank the same shot, you're only chayav one chatos. If you ate and drank it in a malacha, chayav shtei chatos. If you drank food which is not suitable, or you drank beverage is not suitable, you drink fish brine, or muiras is some other kind of brine which is actually not suitable to eat. Part in all those cases you're exempt from you're exempt from transgressing Yom Kippur because it's not true achila. What, muiras? Yeah. It's curdled milk with bread in it. Tinokas emanim some Yom Kippurim. Young children, we don't make the torture of Yom Kippur. I'm but educate them a year or two before their barabas mitzvah. They should be regular mitzvahs, nor they should be accustomed before the mitzvah. Says the Gemara, Lama shesiyah b'chal achil v'achil b'chal shesiyah. Why is drinking included in eating and not eating in drinking? Says what's the premise of your question? How do you know that drinking is included in eating? Rabbi Yana Shama Minador. Rabbi Yana heard it from here because it says, I said to the Jews, don't eat blood. Blood is a liquid. Don't eat it. It means that you can call ingesting beverages eating. Malakar, what are we talking about? Maybe you're talking about Badam Shakarash. Maybe you're talking about congealed blood. And therefore you eat it. You don't drink it, it's congealed already. Says the Gemara, it can't be. Hotani dam shakarash, it says blood which congealed. Ein lo'ochav lo'mashke. It's not achila nor shasiyah. It's not food nor is it beverage. And here we're saying that it's considered to be a beverage or food which it's already forbade, right? So it can't be talking about congealed blood because that's like rocks and sticks and stones. It's not forbidden. Says the Gemara. We're talking about the blood as is, liquid. Torah calls its consumption achila. So see is included in achila. That's more. Didn't we learn about time? If you solidify fat and you swallow it, if you solidify blood and eat it, if you have a gazayas in the blood, chayim, right? Then you're liable for having consumed it. Are you chayim again? What? No, even if it is correct, it's still chayim because of blood. We just said before it's considered to be dam shekorish is not blood. It's not ochel mashke, right? How can you say it's here chayim for eating it, right? Ma'ala Rabbi Yonah says more interesting distinction. Eno ochel l'tamei tumas ochlim. It's not food vis-a-vis tumas ochlim that should receive or transmit tuma. Lo mashke l'tamo tumas mashke, nor does the beverage become tamei because of tumas which befalls the beverage. However, what?
Is that what you mean, is that what you're talking about? Tumas mashke?
No. I mean, it's not well, maybe that's what it means. Because what's the difference between tumas mashke and tumas ochel? Not that difference. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. There's no such thing as tumas mashke, so it's really tumas ochel. Okay, so we see quite clearly that blood you transgress even though it's congealed. So it says Rabbi Yonah will learn from here. It says when you bring money up to Yerushalmi, buy with it whatever your heart desires. It says the Gemara, Mana Kayomi. What are we talking about? If we're talking about I forgot to throw in the end of the pasuk, which is important. Karmeir brings it down. It says and it says the end of the pasuk. It says cattle, sheep, wine, and beer. A sheep there, so we see that consuming wine is considered to be achila. Okay, that's what it's talking about. We're talking about where you put wine inside your cooked dish. It tastes bad. So wine doesn't improve dishes, it ruins them. What are you talking about? As is. In other words, you didn't mix it together. But the cross is achila, right? You didn't mix it together yet into the food, right? Because that would make the food taste bad. Rather, it's wine saying by itself. It says, "Do not eat it without proper authorization." Rabbanan Geitzorin said, "Tipater pe'ilin uznaya v'gamra maya." That we're talking about. It could be that the pasuk is telling us that you're allowed to buy wine and beer and consider about achila because it's talking about where you apply them to cooking a dish of mushrooms, and beer and mushrooms go together very well. So since beer and mushroom goes together very well, so therefore maybe the consumption of the beer or wine actually. The consumption of wine and beer is not called eating in of itself, but here it's called eating because you're eating it as part and parcel of your mushroom dish, right? Says Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yosef learned from here. Shvua shlo ochal. If a person takes an oath not to eat, v'achal and he eats, v'shasa and he drinks, eno chayav elachas. Only chayav one korban. So we see achim and shastiyah linked together. I'm Rechav Rabbi Yossi. The Chavim said in front of Rabbi Yossi, and more than Basra. Read what comes afterwards. It says, Shvuah shlo ochal, v'shlo eshter. If a person takes an oath not to eat and not to drink, v'achal v'shlos, and he ate and drank, chayav shtayim. He's liable to 2 averos for eating and drinking. Right? So, if that's the case, you can't say, like we just said before, Shvuah shelo ocha v'ocha v'shosa eino chayiv el achas. You see what he said there?
It should be separate.
Yeah, it should be chayiv one on shasiyah, one on achila, right? So, again says the Gemara, Rabbi Yossi said, Rabbi Yossi responded, if somebody in front of him 2 loaves, Vamar, and he said, Shvuah shelo ochal, kikar zeh, took an oath not to eat this piece of bread. The chazar, and then he said, now here the clearly Ephraim throws in the words, V'amar shlo ochal kikar zeh, he said, I'm not going to eat this one either. In other words, he said, I'm not going to eat either of them. V'achla and shtein kachas, he eats both of them, then he idiot. He eats them both together. Shema in a chayiv shtayim, it's not chayiv 2 penalties, right? Why does it have 2 penalties?
That's a good question. I was saying because kikar is a separate chiyuv, which sounds strange.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that's so we see we don't combine. When you take a shvuah, you're not going to eat and you're not going to drink, so we don't combine eating and drinking together. Each one is its own separate avera. Okay?
That's because it is the way articulated it. He said a separate shvuah for each key.
Right. Right. Rabbi Chananya b'Shem Pinchas Shomel Minadah. That is true. He did articulate it twice. But I guess it does make a difference. All right, let's go further. Rabbi Chananya b'Shem Pinchas Shomel Minadah. You learned that from here. Shvuah shelo ochal. The person takes shvuah not to eat. V'achal, and he eats. V'achal ochlin she'enim ru'im v'achila, eats stuff which is like dung, not suitable to eat. V'shasa mashu she'enim ru'im, which is here, drinks stuff which is not suitable to drink. Part is exempt. B'nei shasa maskim she'enim ru'im l'shasiyah. Now it says only because that's all he did. Drank beverage. If he drank food which is suitable to eat, and then he drank beverage which is suitable to drink, chayav. He's chayav for having transgressed. I put a period here, but I don't know why I did it. I put a period after chayav. Do you have a period there?
Yeah, there is a period.
Oh, so I didn't put it there. So I don't know what it's doing there. All right, well, if I didn't put it there, I don't have to figure it out. Says lo shvuah. Though I'm not the issue of shlo ochal. Lo shvuah shlo ochal amar, because I forget what this line means. 1 second.
It sounds like from the Korbaneda that when it says chayiv, you're only chayiv 1, and the raya is the shasiyah is b'chalal achila.
I see that. I'm really not sure how I understand this. Let's try and steamroll through it though. Let's start from the third to last narrow line. Rabbi Chananya, Rabbi Shem Pinchas Shomel Minadah. What happened here? Shvuah shelo ochal. If a person takes a shvuah not to eat, he eats food which is not roi la'achila. And the more important thing was shasa mashu she'en mu'im l'shtiyah. He drank beverage is not roi to drink. Party is exempt. Now, why is that? Mipnei shasa mashkin she'enam ru'im l'shasiyah. Because he drank stuff which is not suitable to drink. But if he
what happened with the fact that he ate food that was
right, it should be mibnei she'achal oichlem shem ru'im l'chia and shasa mashka shem ru'im. That's what it should say. Oichlem shem ru'im l'chia if he did eat food which is suitable for achila and shasa mashka shem ru'im l'shia chayav. What does chayav mean? Chayav for both. So we see ochlin and achila. He heard from here that achila and shtia are separate because the flip side of this you're chayav on both. Says the Gemara.
If you're chayav on both, 2 chiyuvim?
1 chiyuv per. Because he's saying she is not bichlal achila.
So if he says this that is separate chiyuvim, then it means she is not bichlal achila.
That's right.
And he heard that it was.
No, he's proving that it's not.
Oh, okay.
He didn't say. He just says shama min adah. But what is shama? We're proving now. So he's proving that Jasir and Achila are not the same thing. Right. Okay? Excuse me. It says, Lo shavush lo ochal. Lo shavush lo ochal Amar. I'm such an idiot. Alright. I took the dot seriously. It's a mistake. The dot is a joke.
The one by Chayiv?
Yeah, the one by Chayiv is a joke. It's not such a good joke. Doesn't display a good sense of humor on behalf of the editor of the Gemara. But look, let's go back again. Potter. And again it said, and he ate ochlim shem l'chila. You're chayav too. Even though you're chayav too, but why are you chayav too? Only because your shvur was your shvur was shvur shlo achal. Well, the dot does work. It's not a joke. Sorry, take that back. So that's why you're chayav that she is not b'chal achila. Says more lo, no, like you says a comma. Shvur shlo ochal amar. This is it was a shvur. If the shvur shlo ochal amar, if the taka the shvur talk about the shvur where he said I'm not going to eat nicha, then I understand. Mas nisan, that's a proof. The army shvur shlo ochal, but we see that shvur shlo ochal includes not drinking. But however, Rebbe do amar shvur shlo ochal shlo eshter. My question is according to Rebbe who said that case is talking about where you took a shvur not to eat and not to drink. Whereas Rebbe says that case where you chayiv too is talking about where you took an explicit shvur not to eat and not to drink. So now we still haven't resolved according to Rebbe. What if you only took a shvur not to eat? What's the status in that case? I want to know according to Rebbe what the status is. Okay? So it says more again, lo, shvur shlo chal. If you say shvur shlo ochal is the case, nicha mastisa armin shvur shlo nicha, that's good mastisa. The honor armin could say that shvur shlo ochal.
The nicha is shishoma min hador. You can bring your proof.
Right, nicha is shishoma min hador. That's right. That you can bring a proof from here. But I want to know, however, Rebbe domer shvur shlo ochal sheh that case said about he took a shvur not to eat and not to drink. What's the status in the case we just said not to eat? Rabbi China Sham min hador. Learn them here. Ocha v'shoyse b'elei machas ain't a chayiv elachos. What does it say in our Mishnah? Ocha v'shoyse b'elei machas, only one. So you see, it must be the same thing. Rabbi Yamar Sham min hador. Learn it from here. It says lo chalti pa'oni. Says when you come to Beis Hamikdash and you say I didn't misuse my meiser, so I said I didn't eat boni. I didn't eat when I was oni. What about drinking? Did you drink when you were an oni? Why didn't you say lo achalti v'lo shasisi b'oni? So we prove from this that achil and shasi are one thing. Okay? Because he should have said both. Now, the next part, nicha, for the next 3 lines till shasiyah, the Korban takes it all out. And he gives a different gear. So if you take a look at Korban in the 4th line down. 4th wide line. Hagi Garcina. That's if he says shvur shlo ochal and he drank, So he's chayev for shasiyas b'chal chila. Bram amar shvul shlo eshta. But what about the other way? Say shvul, I'm not going to drink. V'acha, and he ate. Shasiyah. Another question, Dad. It's just made a statement. Now we're back in the Gemara. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines down the white lines. Someone learn out from here. Do not eat in your gates. This is my Tashem, which is not being redeemed. Tiroshcha is wine. Yitzarecha is osicha, and your oil. That's anointing. Torah calls it eating. Right? Torah says lo sucha lecho. So you see, shasi is b'cha achila. Says feina mechuver. It's not clear, meaning I don't like that drasha. Why is that? Because if that's true, that's the case, you then you should be like it if you anoint yourself with oils outside the wall. And we know it's not true. Even if you anoint yourself with the walls of my training outside the wall of Yerushalmi, you don't get malchus for it. It's only if you eat or drink it. Yet if you wanted to say you take your drasha seriously, you should even be for anointing, like it says. You just said that it's also the yitzhar is referring to anointing. So it says the Gemara, in general, we don't get malchus outside the chayma. Only if it's ma'aser shein which exited already once entered Yerushalayim and then exited afterwards. Only then do you get malchus. Okay. Otherwise, it's just an isser. How do we know that sicha is not the raisa? Because of the tani, like that which we learned previously in the first halach in the parak. The Shabbos, but all types of anointing are. We said they weren't permissible or forbidden. I think we said they're all permissible. Yeah, it's all permissible. It's for pleasure or not. Ben is permissible. Goras bihilcha kamaisa. It's like etc. We already learned the rest of the statement in the first halacha. Minaychu. So in other words, the tzich is not really the raisa as we already learned before. Minaychu b'chuvra b'asei. How you know it's asei? Again, the same thing we said before, that you're supposed to use your truma for a kohen to use to anoint, and not a non-kohen. Similarly, something mental mace, and you give the mace. Man, we talk about you love it. You're using the ma'aser sheni money for tachrichim. Dover shuasa mimenu lemace. L'chai. It's forbidden to buy any object, even for a live person. L'chai also koshkei mace for a live person, really for a dead person. So eizu dover shumutu l'chai also lemace. Every almost a sicha. You're not allowed to anoint a dead guy with ma'aser sheni, but it sounds like you're allowed to anoint a live guy, at least a live kohen, with ma'aser, with oil of truma. Now, how else forbidden to melacha on Yom Kippur? Because it says Kom melacha lo sasu. What's the onus? What's the punishment? Va'avati is an evshahi. Bracket the soul, chorus. Says Ahila azor li'inui hayom. What? Sorry. Va'avati is an evshahi. Comma. Period. Azor li'inui yom. How do we know you have to afflict yourself during the day of Yom Kippur? It says ki kol nevesher lo suneh. And plus it goes on be'etzma yom hazeh on this day. The girl gets chorus. That's the onish. The nichus neveshahi, right? Azhora. I'm sorry, v'nichus ha'nefesh
that's the Azhor. Onish, v'nichus ha'nefesh hahi. Then the next part is Azhor l'mlachas halayla leskan.
Right. Nichus ha'nefesh is the Azhor, right, but Azhor l'nei kol nefesh lo suneh. I'm sorry. Azhor l'nei yom ki kol nefesh shelo suneh. Right? The onesh v'nichus ha'nefesh hahi. Azhor l'nechus ha'leska. What's Azhor for the night? Right? An onesh leiskan. What's the punishment for the night? So you don't need a pasuk for that. It's pashut, right? Even though it says b'etzem hayomas, and you might make a mistake and say it's not only days. No, it also includes the nights. Don't make such a mistake. Rashim Lakish boy. Rashim Lakish has said, ask, Ma v'lameimar be'lo suneh, el lo socha. Why does it say lo suneh? Why does it just say, don't eat? I'll tell you why. Because normally the prohibition of eating is in a kazayis. The kambiko service. Here we wanted to say that the issue is what restores your soul, and that's more a kosevis.
Isur Raisa is kazayis?
It's kosevis.
I'm saying, but normally you would be...
Had it said on Yom Kippur lo sochal, it's kazayis. Now that it says lo su'uneh, that's how we know it's more, it's kusevis agasa. Because the impression of kazayis is not satiated. It's not restored.
Shiur is not also Torah?
Even if it is, it's not this Yom Kippur, you don't get chorus for it.
But he's not saying the honor, he's just saying that the Isur.
Right, it's not, I mean that, it's not going to be the same Isser nor the same Onish.
Really?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
I thought it's like the Isser just flat out is Isser. Forget about...
No. It'll be separate Isser and Onish. Okay? So, service. Rav said, Yishomer pan velosu nehot klas az horon. These are Rabbi Yeshua is trying to explain what the lav is by Inui, that you should get chorus for it, because Einon Shimel came us here, but it never says do not be afflicted, which would be the lav, right? It just says never shar lo sunev nichraso. So what's the lav? Even though the word lo there is in there, it doesn't mean don't do this, it means the soul which is not muneh gets chores. So he says, nevertheless, whenever we have a Torah, shomer, pen, or lo su'uneh, our case, it's also a lav. Hotlas azor, and these are also considered to be azoros. We use the slambic hammer, we say that they're also types of azoros. Rabbi said, first of all, Yishomer, I disagree with you. Yishomer means, it's a generic thing. It says, Ba'osa amir shamarti, whatever I told you, shel chai shamir. Be careful about that. For example, shamir negad saras lishmar v'lasos. It doesn't mean there's a lav, right? Means make sure to watch your taras and not to do anything against it. So you disagree. Now, Tani Rabbi Chia said, I have another source. So Chid Yerusha very often argued. But I have another source what the Azhara by Inu is. Lo yamra onish b'melacha shein tzara. Shouldn't have said that you get punished for doing melacha. You don't need it. I learn a kavachon from the affliction. Inui, which is a much lighter thing. Chayav in kares, chayav kares, you don't do it. Melacha chamura, melacha which is more severe. Didn't you chayav in low kares? It doesn't not a kavachomer. Halon emar onish melacha. So why say you get onesh, you get zapped for doing work on your kippur? It's superfluous. Elitin azor lefonav. So it's imenu inyan. If I don't need that onesh, so I may use it, plug it in and use it for the Azhara for Inui, right? Ma'onesh nemar b'melacha Azhara lefonav, just like the owner should say it by melacha, there's Azhara which precedes it. So too, onesh nemar b'inui, the Pasha should say it by Inui, Azhara lefonav, there's Azhara which precedes it, even though it's not supposed in the Chumash. Doesn't say it, but we assume it based on this limud. Says Ma'ar Rabbi Zera Hadam Marol Lemating Zereshava Afilu Mufne Mitzad Echad. So said this teaches us that we learn Zereshava even though it's only open on one side, because we need the Onish and Azhara which are written by. We need one Onish. We need the Onish which is written by Inui, and there's no Azhara written, right? It's only the other side which has an extra drasha, right? The Onish by Malacha. So it's only Mufne Mitzad Echad. There's a superfluous thing there which we can derive from elsewhere, but it's not Mufne Mishneh started. So maybe it's such a kavachon we don't say. So we say here clearly, Rabbi Yeshua says we do. Rabbi Yehuda v'lo Rabbi Akiva. This like Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva Amar Lamedim Gzer Shav Al Pi She'eno Mufne. You don't need excess verbiage in order to make a Gzeir Shava. Right? There's a whole machlokas throughout Shas, I assume Bavli and Yerushalmi. You need mufne mitzadecha, mufne mishnei tzonim. So you never need mufne. Gzeir Shava doesn't need any excess verbiage. It's a completely different type of drosha. It's not an excess verbiage type drosha. Parallel ben Yaakov Omer Nemar says betzim hayom hazeh b'melacha. I have another Gzeir Shava. It says betzim hayom hazeh by melacha. And there betzim hayom hazeh b'inui. It says betzim hayom hazeh by affliction. My betzim hayom hazeh shnemer melacha. Which is that's it says by Malach lo chilaktabo ben yoim b'la is no difference between day and night. Ben oshla asar, it's no difference between punishment and penalty, meaning it applies equally to all of them. Af betzam hayom hazeh shneimar b'inui, so to by betzam hayom hazeh it says b'inui lo nachloko ben yoim b'la is no difference between day and night. Ben oshla asar, between punishment and warning. You know, I just realized I don't know if this Yerushalmi holds of the thing of ein mazhir min adin. Because it seems here that we are being mazir min adin. Right? We're learning the warning from elsewhere. Okay. Ad kedun Rabbi Akiva, that's like Rabbi Akiva. Right? That he learns out this Gzeir Shava. He doesn't need mufneh, so he learns the Gzeir Shava. Rabbi Shmuel, but what about like Rabbi Shmuel? He holds he needs Gzeir Shava mufneh. But it's not mufneh. Says more, no, he has something else. This be an eternal law for you in the 7th month. This is a hekish. Hekish melacha le'inui. Both things are written there together. A hekish is not a Gzeir Shava. Gzeir Shava is I take word here, word there, build bridges. For that needs mufta. Except according to Rabbi Akiva, of course. But Rabbi Shmuel holds it needs mufta. You can't build the bridges without having foundations. Foundations are extra words. But hekish is where the Torah itself puts two things in the same pasuk and says they're similar. So that doesn't require any extra psukim. That's just logic. Okay. So he says hekish hakosav hekish melachlina ma melachish asaydicha melachish chayvin lekaris. This time melach I've you there's karis and ashara. Afidish asaydicha inish chayv lekaris and of course there's ashara as well. Rav Abisham Reyochan said. Now I'm going to learn this whole Gemara about Yom Kippur, even though the other Meforshim don't necessarily say that. I think it works. Now one could say it's only about the rest of the year, but I think it's only about Yom Kippur. If I kill a Kerem Yom Kippur, I might think I'm not like it. Why? Because I'm eating something else about Chila, right? And it's a Chalisser, right? So it says no, because it's Miyase, Yutuve Daite. It restores your, it takes away your inui. So you're not being mad at yourself anymore. Right? Rav Abisham Rabbi Yonah says, HaKosis chiti truma. Loke means kori, it's the same thing because you get malchus for a koris. HaKosis chiti truma, you chew raw truma on Yom Kippur loike, even though it's not considered to be true achila, but it restores your sensitivities. Rav Rabbi Yochanan goes so far, if you swallow vinegar of truma, you get malchus as well. Now, even though, ironically, when you swallow chometz of truma, not on Yom Kippur, but the rest of the year, you pay the keren. The principle of Ein Mishalim is a chomesh. You don't pay the extra fifth. Whenever you're a zar who ingests a truma, so if it's edible truma, you pay keren v'chomesh. But vinegar is not edible truma, so you only pay a keren, right? Because you're just a damager, not an eater. But nonetheless, vis-a-vis Yom Kippur, it's misuve daite. So for Yom Kippur, you're going to get malchus. Okay. Places chite truma. Some of you choose chite truma grain. Mishayim keren and mishayim kol is chomesh. He also pays keren and not chomesh because it's not considered to be true eating. Rabbi Omer says, Omer ani I say shum mishayim keren v'chomesh because it is eating. Rabbi Omer share Rabbi Omer said Mo chachon Rabbi. B'mekabei chometz shel truma la'achot. If you swallow the chometz, actually Gil in Ephraim changed it to lifnei. If you swallow chometz of truma before you dip your bread, mishayim keren v'chomesh, then you do pay keren v'chomesh. The chometz meishiv sanevish, because in that case the chometz combines with the bread to be a positive experience. Okay, so I think this actually argues on the Babli, if I'm not mistaken, because the Babli holds Ein Yisur Chal Isser, and if you eat an Aveil on Yom Kippur, you don't get Malchus for Yom Kippur, because it was in the Aveil before Yom Kippur. But I think Yerushalmi is saying as long as it's Meishiv Nefesh, right? So you're Chayiv. So it's a very, 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 very basic difference. And again, the Gemara till now was ambiguous whether it's sorry about Yom Kippur or the rest of the year, where it said loika. But my raya is this last line here. It says Sha'achayim it's Meishiv Nefesh, right? So it seems that the whole time we're talking about the issue of Meishiv Nefesh vis-a-vis Yom Kippur. Okay? Tinokos Eimanim Asobi, just quote Mishnah. Tinokos Eimanim Asobi Yom Kippurim. Tinokos don't have to fast on Yom Kippur. Right? The Tara Chura Pater Masisa Tinokos Eimanim Asobi Yom Kippurim. They don't have to fast. Lo Mechanchim Osam. They don't educate them to fast. Korem L'shana Korem L'shtayim, a year or two before Bar Mitzvah Mechanchim. Rabbi Yelon Basam Asnisa Tinokos Eimanim Asobi Yom Kippurim. They don't fast. But you educate them. Now here I switch the words. It's my own impression. Koidem l'shtayim. Koidem, for 2 years before a mitzvah, you start educating them. Koidem l'shana. See, I switch the words. Mashlimim. A year before their mitzvah, they actually complete the fast. Okay, which is our current minute. Arechon. When do you start educating? Because there's a question, when you start educating, not to be machlim, but to educate in general. Rabbi Yaakov said, you can start educating when the time they reach 9 or 10 years old, and we will stop here for this evening.